Welcome to The Spirit Inside. Please like, share, and subscribe and all that good algorithm stuff. And right off the jump, I want to apologize for any pronunciation issues because we're going to go to Japan because we're going to be talking about sake. Now I say sake, but something to understand is that in Japan, sake is a term they use for any type of alcohol beverages. Something I learned from doing this video. And actually what we think of sake, they refer to it as, here's my first test here, Nihonshu. But I'm going to play the part of the dumb Westerner. I'm just going to keep referring it to sake. So to say that today's brand has a long history is an understatement. Because today's brand is Gekkeikan. Yeah, close enough, Gekkeikan. And this brand goes all the way back to 1637. We're going to go back to the castle city of Fushimi. Now, Japanese history can be super complicated. The only thing we really need to know in relation to Gekkeikan here today is that in the late 16th century and into the early 17th century, Fushimi was an important seat of power despite not being like a capital city or anything like that. But then eventually due to politics and conflict and just the changing political scene in Japan, Fushimi Castle was abandoned. But after that, the town found, another life as a very important port and trading post, and people from all parts of Japan would come through it, so it still had a lot of importance in that sense. And because they had all this traffic of different people from different parts of Japan coming through, it eventually developed a sake brewing community. So in 1637, enter our founder, Okuro Himon. As you can see on screen here right now, no, it's like several hundred years ago, no image files, use your imagination. Himon moved from his hometown of, Kasagi to Fushima to open his own sake shop and his own brewery. He named the shop Kasagiya after his own hometown. So from here he brewed his own brand of sake under the name of Tama no Izumi. So before it was known as Gekkeikan, it was known as Tama no Izumi. But I'm going to still refer to it as Gekkeikan to avoid any confusion. So in the back of your mind, just realize at this point in the history, Gekkeikan is not really called that. It's the Tama no Izumi. But just to avoid confusion, I'll just call it by its modern day name. Now, despite its over 380 years of history, what we do know about Gekkeikan, it comes from all the records they kept from all the sake that they had, all the different types of sake that they brewed. The oldest of which of these goes to 1718. So this was a time before understanding of microbiology, so they would get spoilage issues due to lactic acid from bacteria. This would be a time where they had periods of famine and there would maybe be damage to crops because of pests. Anytime this would happen, the sake brewers would be limited in how much rice they could purchase. Also, fires were fairly frequent because of the brewing process for sake that would involve fires, and things would happen and then you'd have a building or production go down because of fires. And to add even more challenges on top of this, other neighboring territories and areas around Fushimi, they would have brewers who would make cheaper sake. So because of all these factors, the number of sake brewers in Fushimi went down from 83 in 1657 to just 28 by 1785. Then things got even more difficult in 1866 because during that time there were periods of flooding and drought that was affecting the rice production. Then in the January of 1866, you had the Battle of Toba Fushimi. So obviously being the Battle of the Toba Fushimi, Fushimi took some damage. Homes and breweries north of a street called, here we go, Minamiyahama, they got destroyed and took damage. So this street just happened to run right in front of the Okuro family residence. And this is the birthplace of Gekkeikan. But luckily the family home was spared. So you have all these floods and drought periods and you have the battle going on, the war. So obviously this caused rice prices to be very high. So during this period, the brewers in Fushimi, instead of competing against each other aggressively, they instead help each other out. They would divide up tasks among themselves to help each other out. They would provide mutual aid, and they use this process to get through as a community through what is known as the Meiji Restoration period. So just to recap, we have our founder of what will eventually become Gekkeikan, Okuro Himon. Following him, we have 8 heads of the company. All of these people are family members of the Okuro family. Now these heads, they did their part in keeping the business alive and keeping it going, especially through these difficult times, like I said, floods, droughts, all things that kind of were happening that could have sunk the business at any time. And until we get to the 10th head, and then especially the 11th head, heads 2 through 9, there just really isn't much information that is available. Not names, not date of births, nothing really that I could find anywhere. And I don't think that's meant as any kind of like disrespect to them. Obviously, like I said, they kept the company going through all those times. It's just that I think for Gekkeikan, other than the founder, the next part of their history that's really important to them is when they're transitioning from the 10th head to the 11th head. And his story features very prominently on the Gekkeikan website. But that story is going to be for another video. So for now, today, let's talk about today's Gekkeikan sake. So today's product is Gekkeikan's Black and Gold. Interestingly, it does not show up on their product page on their website, but it seems to be readily available at retailers. It is 15.6 alcohol by volume, and this particular product is produced and bottled in the United States out of Folsom, California. So how does a sake from a Japanese company have a USA-made product? That's also for a future video, so make sure to find that when it's available. But for now, let's move on to the review. So for the straight review, something to know, because we're talking about sake, is that it can be enjoyed at room temperature, chilled, or you can warm it up. And I'm going to hold off on this a little bit, but the Japanese being the Japanese, they don't just do, room, cold, and hot. They have like a very detailed terms for a certain temperature range. So there's something at the very hottest end, and then something that's just below that, and then below that, and then you have like the middle room temperature terms, and then you have slightly cold, chilled, and then colder, than really chilled. So like I said, for today's video, the sake I'm gonna have is room temperature. Room temperature, what does that mean for me in this moment? It's a nice, comfortable 70 degree range. It's not, too hot, too cold. It's very comfortable. So the first thing we're going to talk about then, as always, is the packaging. Now, they do sell this strictly as a bottle, but I got the gift package set. So we'll judge it on that. So here we have the package set, and it comes, besides, the sake in the bottle, we have these two little sake cups. It's a good gift in that if you have somebody who's never had sake before and obviously don't have, what would you say, there's a proper cups for that, this is a good option for them. The box itself, it's nothing too special. My previous review before this was a rum out of Costa Rica, where it had a very fancy blue box, and that kind of box is something you might want to keep and display, keep it around. This one's a little bit more disposable. It's not bad, but it's just kind of a flimsy, kind of basic cardboard. But it's done very nice. Obviously black and gold, so it's got that theme, and then a little bit of green from the logo. Plastic is very I hate to say it, kind of cheap, not very durable. So yeah, this is something makes for a quick, nice presentation, but you don't want to keep it around. You'd recycle this. What I think is a little bit nicer and more to focus on is the bottle itself. When you do black right, it comes across as just really classy, and that's definitely what this looks like. It's simple because it's just two colors, the black and of course the gold, hence the name. And the foil here is nice. Let's see if it's a pain to get in or not. Nope, easy to get in. And it looks like it's a screw top, classy, simple, easy to get in and out. Even has sort of a nice feel to it. On its own, this would easily be a 5. And then having the gift packaging, gives you a little something extra, so that's an easy 5. It would be nicer if this was something a little bit more collectible, but this is good. So then next we'll go on to the aroma. Now sake, for me at least, like the aroma part of it and the experience of tasting it is totally different than any other kind of drink, because it has a little bit of that fermented kind of smell and taste to it, and it's kind of unique compared to, like a whiskey or tequila or anything else like that. I wouldn't compare it into other types of alcohol. You gotta kind of just enjoy it for what it is, and this is, I should say, spoiler alert, I've had this plenty of times before, so I already know that I'm gonna like this. Like the smell, based on what I think, at least in my opinion, what I think a sake should taste like, this is great. It's mild and mellow. It's got that a little bit of earthiness and a lot of that fermented smell. But it's very mild and mellow, and it just kind of lingers and then falls off. I haven't tried like hundreds and different types of sake, but I've had, different types of sake here and there, and this definitely caught my attention for the experience and everything. And so for me, this is what I think a sake should be like. Not too pungent, but it's got that little bit of that punch into it. So to me, this is a 5 for me. Appearance-wise, well, we can't judge it in the bottle. It's totally blacked out. I don't know how well it'll come across in camera. It probably looks mostly clear, and it is. But when you really stir into it, there's this hint of yellowness of it, and it's a tint of color. I know I like this. To me, this is also pretty much a 5 on the appearance. No issues there. Now, flavor. Yeah, very light, doesn't linger around too much. It's got that, there's no burn. Just a lovely, fairly kind of floral sweetness to it. For me, this is another 5, really easy. And then the mouthfeel, it lingers on just the right amount of time. Like you get the stronger taste up front, and then it kind of slowly backs off, and it seems like it's gonna go away. And then for me, it always has like a second life. It kind of comes back a little bit in the back of the throat, a little bit farther back in the palate. So again, it's a milder version of what it was in the beginning, and it sort of fades away again. And it's all, as long as you like sake and what it's about, it's great. It's a great experience. So I'm gonna give that another 5. This might be one of the highest scoring alcohols that I ever do so far. But as far as buzz factor goes, I have to give it just a 1. And again, when we're talking about buzz factor, you know, how strong of a buzz can give you in a whatever amount of time, a short amount of time, just how strong the buzz can be and how fast it can come on. That's debatable whether a high score is better or a low score is better. So that gives it a score of 4.33. So when I was putting this video together, I didn't think I would be doing a mix section and then a review on the mix section, because to me, in my mind, it never occurred to me that you would make a cocktail with sake. To me, I don't know, it just seemed not classy, kind of blasphemous, that you're just enjoying sake on its own. But on a whim, I checked to see if there was any kind of cocktail that I could find with that. I thought I'd find something kind of wacky. Turns out I was totally wrong. There's a whole bunch of cocktails and mixes you can do with sake that are, you know, perfectly acceptable. So after doing some research, I settled on one. So let's learn how to make the Purple Rain. All right, here in the mix section, we're gonna make something called a Purple Rain. Purple rain, purple rain. Pretty simple. Starting with our ingredients, we're gonna have 3 ounces of the black and gold sake. And this is all gonna be going directly into a shaker filled with ice. Again, they don't really specify what type of ice, so whatever you prefer, especially for this part where we're just putting in from the shaker. That doesn't gonna end up in your glass, so it can be much anything. I'm just gonna go with crushed ice. 3 ounces of sake. Three ounces there. Next is half an ounce of lime juice. Pre-measure this out. They're also going to go in the shaker, again with the ice. And then we're going to do 5 ounces of this blueberry syrup. Already got some in there. So after you put in the blueberry syrup, we're going to give everything a shake. We're going to hold off on the ginger beer for now. And you can see really how much to shake. Just don't do anything too crazy. And then we're going to do 1.5 ounces of ginger beer. Pour here. After we're done pouring in the ginger beer, we want to just give it a light stir. Now for this mix, we're going to be using a tall glass here. Again, it's going to be poured into the glass with ice. It didn't really specify, but in the image that I found, it used cubed ice, so it seemed like the right call, so I'm just going to go with cubed ice. And you can garnish with blueberry and or mint. I actually did want to try putting the mint, but I just couldn't find any in time. But I am going to add the blueberry because that seemed like it was fun. Gonna add the last few ice cubes in there. And then top off with a few more. You don't have to go crazy with it, but that's to do. So we're gonna get our strainer here. But that's it. That is Purple Rain, Purple Rain. And that's how you make a purple rain. So let's get on here with the review. First, the aroma. So you would think that would have a overpowering blueberry smell, and that's definitely part of it, but there's something else going on. The blueberry smell is mixing with the fermented nature and smell of the sake. It's really sharp and intense, and it's something to me very pleasant. Usually you think sharp and intense, I might attach it to something smelling bad, but this time it's really nice, like a really strong, almost citrusy kind of smell. I'm gonna give that a 4. Appearance wise, it's really cool. Not as purpley as I was hoping, at least compared to what I saw in the screenshots where I got this from, but it's something that's unfiltered. It's obviously got like materials probably from like the blueberries and both the syrup and the actual blueberries themselves. Yeah, but it's fun to look at. I mean, I would say I give that also a solid 4. Flavor part. Oh, that's something. It just reminds, I just kind of figured out why it has that strong, sharp smell too, because of the ginger beer. You have the ginger sharpness and the fermentation of the sake, and then the sweetness of the blueberry and the syrup from the blueberry syrup. And yeah, this is surprisingly complex. Oh wow. So it's all very light and refreshing. The part where the ginger beer comes in with sharp intensity, but it's not ginger so much as, well, it's a little bit of ginger, but then it's kind of sweetened with the blueberry. A very, very complex taste. The sweetness is very light, not overpowering, but I think once it got hidden with the sake and the ginger beer, there's more mild sweetness to it, but then the sharpness and crispness to it. To me, that's a 5. That's really good. And the mouthfeel, it's pretty good too. Probably the only thing I would think is that I wish it would not dissipate so quickly, because it comes on strong. It gives you those tastes and the sensations, but it doesn't linger too long. And I kind of wish it did. So I'll say a 4.5 on that. And then on the buzz factor, I would say this is pretty, as far as the buzz factor, pretty mild as well. I mean, it's just the sake, which is pretty good. I would say though, still on the buzz factor is still just the 1. So for the mix score, that's overall a 3.7. And I guess that's what the math works out to, but I kind of almost feel like it's a little bit closer to edging to a 4 than a 3.7. But still, it's a very respectable score, very enjoyable drink. I definitely recommend the Purple Rain. But then that pretty much brings us to the end of the video. You know, it can be kind of a slog to do the research for these videos. A lot of these brands, I think I mentioned this before, they have, especially the older brands or even a younger brand, they have histories and information that's kind of obscured or made fantastical. But learning about Gekkeikan has been very interesting and fun and pretty straightforward. So like I said, a lot of these companies, they have sort of fantastical takes on the history, and Gekkeikan was refreshingly just honest. You know, I went to their website, got their take on the history, and then went and found other third-party sources to cross-check it, and everything checked out. The way they tell it on their own official website is probably as close and honest as they can make it. And I'm looking forward to doing at least 2 more videos on the black and gold, as far as sort of tasting it in warm and then versus cold or chilled. But let me know what you think in the comments. You know, please interact if you can, like, share, and subscribe and all that good stuff. And until then, next time, make sure you enjoy the spirit inside responsibly.